Have you ever stopped for a moment and wondered why, as the years go by, life feels heavier, not because of time itself, but because of the burdens you quietly keep dragging behind you? As we grow older, the weight we carry doesn't increase because of age alone. It grows heavier because of the things we refuse to release. There is a unique kind of tiredness, a deep exhaustion that seeps into the bones later in life, and it has very little to do with the number of birthdays we've lived through. It comes from holding on, clinging tightly to beliefs, expectations, regrets, and old fears that no longer support the person we've grown into. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that suffering is rarely about what happens to us. It is born from what we continue to grip long after the moment has passed. The Buddha once explained clearly, holding on to anger is like clutching a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. Yet you are the one who gets burned first. But anger isn't the only burning coal we keep in our hands. As the years advance, many of us cling to pride when we desperately need help, to expectations about how our children should show their love, to outdated beliefs that have hardened over time, becoming stiff like old wood. And perhaps most tightly of all, we hold on to the illusion that we can control the world around us. So we build walls meant for protection that eventually become prisons. We empty our spirits with endless self-sacrifice. We whisper to ourselves that it's too late to begin anything new, too late to change, too late to live differently. But these are the invisible chains that keep inner peace just out of reach. Not the body's natural decline, not the passing years. It is the closed fist, the unwillingness to loosen our grip, to soften, to open our hands, and finally, let go. What if the freedom you've been searching for your entire life isn't somewhere ahead of you, but hidden beneath the very burdens you've been taught to carry? This is not a message about surrendering your strength or giving up on life. It is about finally recognizing what genuine freedom looks like, especially once you've lived long enough to understand the difference between holding on to something and being held captive by it. Ahead lies a revelation, 7 burdens that many people carry into their later years, believing they must. 7 silent weights disguised as virtues, duties, and just the way things are. But Buddhism offers another path, one that gently encourages us to look closely at what we carry, to question whether these loads were ever truly ours, and to understand that letting go is not a loss at all. It is a return to peace. It is liberation in its purest form. This is the kind of wisdom that can turn the years ahead from a slow dimming into a profound awakening. Let go of pride when you need help. There arrives a quiet moment in every life, a moment when the body whispers truths the mind has tried for years to ignore. Your hands tremble just slightly when holding a cup. The staircase that once felt effortless now asks you to pause halfway. Tasks you performed without a single thought now demand your full focus, and sometimes slip beyond your ability entirely. But this is not failure. This is not weakness. This is the natural unfolding of a human life. And yet, we resist it fiercely. Pride steps forward like a stern guardian, telling us that needing help means we have become less than we once were, that our worth is measured by how independently we can stand, that asking for support is a confession of defeat. But Buddhist wisdom teaches something far more compassionate, far more truthful. It reminds us that independence has always been an illusion, a comforting story we told ourselves in the years when our bodies were strong enough to conceal reality. The truth is simple and profound. We have never been separated, not for a single moment. The Buddhist understanding of interdependence reveals that all beings exist only through their connections to others. We are woven together, supported, shaped, lifted, and sustained by countless relationships, some seen and some invisible. We were never meant to carry life alone, and recognizing that truth is not the end of your strength, it is the beginning of your freedom. The very air you breathe is not your own doing. It was gifted to you by the trees. The food on your table is not just nourishment. It is a journey that began in the soil, passed through countless hands, and traveled across land and labor before reaching your plate. Even the thoughts in your mind are not entirely yours. They were shaped by the words you learned from others, carried through generations before finally landing within you. You did not build yourself alone. You have always been supported, held in place by an unseen web of connection, generosity, and shared humanity. When you were young and strong, you took your place in that web by giving to others. But now, in allowing others to give to you, you complete the circle. You offer them something sacred, the chance to practice generosity, to feel that their presence matters, to take part in the timeless human work of caring for one another. In Buddhist understanding, the giver and the receiver are not separate roles. They are partners in the same spiritual practice. Both dissolve the illusion of I stand alone. Both soften the false boundary between self and other. Think of a forest. The old trees, the giants with thick trunks and deep, ancient roots, do not stand isolated in their strength. Beneath the surface, their roots intertwine with those of younger trees, sharing nutrients, communicating through hidden fungal networks, steadying one another through storms. And when an ancient tree begins to lean, the others do not judge it as failing or weak. They simply hold it upright, quietly, naturally, without hesitation. This is the way of things. This is interdependence. Letting go of pride does not mean surrendering your dignity. It means finally realizing that dignity never came from what you could accomplish alone. It came from how truthfully you walked through your circumstances, how authentically you met each moment without pretending to be more or less than you are. There is profound courage in the simple act of saying, "I need help with this, can you assist me?" That sentence is not defeat. It is the brave acceptance of reality as it is. The alternative, clinging to pride, is a slow and painful imprisonment. You drain yourself trying to maintain the illusion of independence. You avoid situations where your limitations might show. You decline invitations, skip gatherings, and retreat from the world because you fear being seen as diminished. And in that retreat, you lose something far more precious than independence. You lose connection. You lose presence. You lose the effortless joy of simply existing among other people without needing to prove anything at all. But when you open your hands and allow pride to fall away, you do not fall. You are caught, held by the very web that has been supporting you all your life. You discover something unexpected, something quietly beautiful. People do not look at you with pity when you ask for help. They look at you with recognition. Because every human being, no matter how strong or self-reliant, understands what it feels like to need support. Everyone has tasted vulnerability, and in your willingness to be seen exactly as you are without armor or pretense, you give others silent permission to do the same. You do not become smaller, you become more deeply human. And in that shared humanity, you find a warmth, a closeness, a sense of belonging that independence alone could never offer. Let go of expecting your children to love or live in the way you desire. Few things create more quiet pain in later life than the distance between the children we imagined and the children standing in front of us. We raised them with tenderness. We sacrificed without hesitation. We held dreams, sometimes unspoken, sometimes very clear, about who they would grow into, how they would treat us, how they would stay close, or how they would return our love. But they grew, and they became people with their own paths, their own wounds, their own ways of expressing care, ways that may not resemble the ones we expected or hoped for. Buddhism describes this as the suffering that comes from attachment to outcomes. We cling not just to our children themselves, but to specific visions of who they ought to be, how they ought to behave, how they ought to express gratitude or affection. When the real human being before us does not match the imagined version in our mind, we feel pain, we feel disappointment, sometimes even a sense of betrayal, though our children may have done nothing wrong at all, except live their own lives. The Buddha often spoke of karma, not as a cosmic punishment, but as the natural unfolding of each individual's journey. Every being walks a path shaped by their unique actions, intentions, and circumstances. Your children are not extensions of you. They are not vessels meant to fulfill your dreams or expressions of your identity. They are souls with their own destinies to meet, lessons to learn, mistakes to make, and love to give in ways that may look unfamiliar, but are still real. They are not here to complete the dreams you never had the chance to pursue, nor to prove that your parenting was successful by growing into a specific kind of person. They came into this world through you, but they do not belong to you. Each soul carries its own destiny, its own lessons to learn, its own wounds to heal, its own ways of discovering meaning and purpose. This truth does not mean you must suppress your feelings when your relationship with your children becomes strained or distant. Your hurt is real, your sadness is valid, and your longing for closeness deserves compassion. But Buddhism gently invites you to ask a deeper question: where is this hurt actually coming from? Often, it rises from expectations you never realized you were carrying. Unspoken hopes that your children would visit more often, call every week, make choices that align with your values, raise their own children the way you raised them, or simply show the kind of gratitude you quietly hoped for. Even when these expectations are never voiced aloud, your children can feel them like a subtle, heavy pressure. And paradoxically, that very pressure can create the emotional distance you fear most. For the more tightly you hold expectations, trying to shape them into what you believe they should become, the more they must push away just to breathe, just to make space to be themselves. Letting go of expectations does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you detach from your children or stop wanting a loving relationship. It means loosening your grip on who you think they ought to be, so you can finally see who they truly are. This shift in perception can be transformative. When you stop comparing the real person in front of you to the imagined version in your mind, something softens. You begin to notice qualities you once overlooked. You see their struggles with deeper compassion. You recognize their small gestures of love, even when those gestures look different from what you had hoped for. In Buddhism, this practice is known as equanimity, a steady acceptance that every person walks their own path, makes their own choices, and learns in their own time. You can still offer guidance when they seek it. You can still express your needs honestly and lovingly, but you cannot control how they live or how they love. The attempt to control only breeds suffering, both for you and for them. Yet when you release your children from the weight of your expectations, something remarkable begins to unfold. When expectations loosen and fall away, the relationship finally has room to breathe. Love can flow more naturally when it is not squeezed through narrow conditions or requirements. Your children may sense this shift and choose to come closer, or they may not. Either way, you are freed from the exhausting, impossible task of shaping another human being's life, freed from measuring love in terms of how closely someone matches your hopes. And in that freedom, you begin to understand something profound. Family love, like every form of love, grows best in wide, open soil where each person is allowed to be fully themselves. Let go of clinging to old views. For decades, you have carried certain beliefs about how the world works, what matters most, and how people should behave. These views were shaped by your particular era, your community, your upbringing, and your lived experiences. They felt solid and true because everyone around you echoed them, reinforced them, lived by them. But the world has continued to turn. Generations have shifted, and the beliefs that served you well in middle age may no longer fit the reality that surrounds you now. Buddhism offers a teaching for this moment, the beginner's mind. It is the practice of approaching each experience as though you are seeing it for the very first time, without the heavy filter of everything you assume you already understand. This does not mean pretending you lack wisdom or experience. It simply means staying open to the possibility that your understanding is still evolving, that life has more to show you, that certainty may not be the blessing it once appeared to be. Many people reach older age to find their viewpoints slowly stiffening like cooling concrete. What once was a preference becomes a rule. What once was one way of interpreting life becomes the only acceptable way. And this hardening is so subtle that it often goes unnoticed. You stop questioning your own assumptions. You stop listening, truly listening to perspectives that challenge your own. You start sentences with, "In my day, people understood that," or "Nobody today seems to know that." And these phrases, innocent as they seem, reveal something deeper. They signal a retreat from the present, a quiet withdrawal into a fixed, unchanging past. But the Buddha taught that all compounded things, all ideas, all habits, all beliefs, are impermanent. They shift, dissolve, and transform. To cling to them as though they are eternal is to resist the very nature of life itself. This principle of impermanence applies not only to bodies and objects, but also to ideas, values, and ways of understanding the world. What was wise and appropriate in one chapter of your life may need to evolve in the next. The beliefs that helped you raise your children may not fully apply when relating to grandchildren, growing up in a vastly different world. The certainties that gave you grounding during your working years may need softening now, in a season where reflection has more space to breathe. Clinging to old views creates suffering in several quiet but profound ways. First, it separates you from the present moment and from the people who inhabit it. When you insist that life should unfold the same way it did decades ago, you stop seeing what is actually happening now. You miss opportunities to connect with younger generations who face challenges you never encountered. You miss the chance to learn from them, to see through their fresh eyes, to be transformed by what is new, unfamiliar, and alive. Second, rigidity of thought eventually turns into rigidity of heart. When your beliefs cannot bend, your relationships become brittle. People stop sharing their lives with you because they fear criticism or dismissal. Conversations shrink into one-sided lectures rather than genuine exchanges. And the wisdom you truly want to offer is overlooked, not because it isn't valuable, but because it arrives wrapped in a message that suggests the listener's experiences are somehow less real or less important than yours. Buddhism encourages a quality known as wise investigation. This is the practice of examining your beliefs not to confirm you were right, but to ask sincerely whether those beliefs still serve you, still align with compassion, and still support connection. Wise investigation means being open to the possibility that you misunderstood something, or that your knowledge was incomplete, or that a long-held belief might need updating in light of new realities. This does not mean abandoning your core values. It does not require you to become someone unrecognizable. Rather, it means learning to distinguish between the essential truths that anchor your integrity and the habits of thought that no longer reflect the world you live in. And then there are the temporary opinions, the views you once held with confidence simply because they fit the world you grew up in. Some of these beliefs may still shine with truth, honor those, but others reveal themselves over time as artifacts of a particular era, shaped more by cultural conditioning than by genuine wisdom. Those can be released without losing any part of who you truly are. When you stop clinging to rigid, outdated views, you open a door inside yourself. You create space for wonder again. The world becomes interesting instead of predictable. Life begins to feel fresh instead of familiar. You develop what Buddhism calls a pliant mind, a mind that can stretch, adapt, and remain vibrant no matter your age or physical limitations. And perhaps most beautifully, you become someone younger people want to engage with, because you greet them with curiosity rather than correction, with questions rather than fixed pronouncements, with presence rather than judgment. Let go of the need to control everything. For most of your life, control felt like responsibility. You made decisions, solved problems, organized schedules, managed situations, and kept life moving steadily forward. This was necessary. It was appropriate. You were raising children, building a career, maintaining a home, supporting others, but time has shifted the landscape. Many of the things you once managed have now passed into other hands or simply don't require the same oversight anymore. Yet the habit of control remains. Even when there is nothing left to control, the mind continues searching for things to tighten its grip around. Buddhism teaches that the urge to control arises from fear. Fear of chaos, fear of harm, fear that without your constant vigilance, everything will fall apart. But this fear overlooks a profound truth. Most of life has always been beyond your control. When you were younger, You simply had more energy to sustain the illusion that you were directing everything. Consider what must occur perfectly for you to take a single breath. Your lungs must expand and contract without your command. Your heart must beat about 100,000 times a day without needing your instruction. The air must contain the right amount of oxygen, maintained by forests and plants you will never meet. All of this happens without your involvement. All of this is life unfolding on its own. The weather must remain stable enough for you to survive where you live. Millions of processes, cosmic, biological, atmospheric, must operate in perfect harmony every single moment for your life to continue. And you control none of them. What you truly control is far smaller than what you once believed you managed. You control your response to what happens. You control whether you speak with kindness or with harshness. You control what you choose to give your attention to. That is the extent of it. Everything else unfolds through countless causes and conditions far beyond your reach. As you grow older, life has a way of making this truth impossible to ignore. Your body behaves in ways you never agreed to. People you love make choices you would never make. Systems you depended on change without seeking your permission. And so, you face a choice. You can exhaust yourself fighting reality, trying to bend circumstances to your will, or you can release your grip and discover what peace actually feels like. Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive or uncaring. It means redirecting your precious energy toward what is genuinely within your influence. Instead of trying to control whether your adult daughter chooses the career you prefer, you control whether you tell her you trust her judgment. Instead of trying to control how your body ages, you control how gently and lovingly you care for it. Instead of trying to control how others behave, you control your own response with clarity, wisdom, and equanimity. Buddhism offers practices to help loosen this lifelong grip. Meditation teaches you to observe thoughts, emotions, and sensations without rushing to change them. You learn that you can watch anxiety rise like a wave without needing to fix the situation that caused it. You discover that you can feel disappointment without trying to reshape the person who disappointed you. You develop the rare and powerful ability to simply be present with what is, instead of endlessly reaching for what you think should be. And when you finally release the exhausting attempt to control everything, something surprising happens. Life does not collapse. In fact, it often begins to flow more easily, more naturally, more peacefully than before. Because you are no longer creating resistance by trying to manage every detail of life. Something softens inside you. Relationships begin to improve naturally, simply because those around you no longer feel they must defend their autonomy against your well-intentioned interventions. And most astonishing of all, you discover a sense of peace in situations that once would have terrified you, because your safety is no longer built on the impossible dream of absolute control. Let go of isolating yourself. Somewhere along the journey, perhaps after losses accumulated, or your energy gradually waned, or disappointments stacked quietly on one another, you began to withdraw. It didn't happen all at once. First, you stopped attending gatherings that felt too tiring. Then you allowed friendships to drift because they required effort you didn't feel you had. You convinced yourself you preferred solitude, that you had always been independent, that other people were too exhausting to deal with. And while some of these things may hold a grain of truth, Buddhism warns of a deeper danger, the danger of isolation that is not born of temperament, but of unexamined fear. The Buddha spoke directly about this. He taught that isolation is one of the conditions that increases suffering, mentally and emotionally. This is why he established the Sangha, the community of practitioners, not as a pleasant addition to spiritual life, but as one of the three essential refuges. He understood that human beings are relational creatures. We need connection not as a luxury, but as a fundamental requirement for well-being. Modern research echoes his ancient insight. Studies on loneliness among older adults show that social isolation is as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It raises the risk of dementia, heart disease, and premature death. But beyond the physical consequences, Isolation creates a distinct kind of emotional and spiritual suffering, a quiet ache, a shrinking of the world, a steady dimming of joy. Buddhism describes this kind of isolation as one of the realms of existence, a place where beings become trapped by their own mental patterns. When you withdraw from others, you unintentionally create a painful feedback loop. The less you interact with people, the more your mind invents stories about why connection is impossible or undesirable. You begin to believe that no one wants to hear from you, that you have nothing meaningful to offer, that the world has quietly moved on without you. And these stories grow stronger in isolation because there is no reality check, no genuine human interaction to show you that your fears are exaggerated, incomplete, or simply untrue. Meanwhile, without the natural stimulation and variety that come from regular contact with others, your mind begins to contract. Small worries stretch and swell until they dominate your entire mental landscape. Negative thoughts echo back at you and intensify, and your perspective narrows until it becomes hard to remember what balance even feels like. Isolation does not create the peaceful solitude you may believe you're choosing. Instead, it forms an inner echo chamber where suffering multiplies quietly, relentlessly. Letting go of isolation does not require you to become outgoing or suddenly maintain a large circle of friends. Buddhism is not urging you to pack your schedule with constant social activity. Rather, it invites you to look inward with honesty and ask, is my withdrawal coming from true preference, or from unresolved grief, from unspoken fear, from a habit that has gone unquestioned? Connection can be simple, gentle, uncomplicated. It might look like having one friend you call once a week just to check in. It might mean joining a small meditation group that gathers once a month. It could be volunteering a few hours at a library or community center where familiar faces greet you with warmth and you exchange a few kind words. The form of the connection matters far less than the intention behind it. The willingness to remain part of the human web, to allow others to see you, and to allow yourself to see them in return. Buddhism teaches that in connecting with others, we are not merely socializing, we are practicing essential spiritual qualities. We practice patience when someone moves slowly or needs more time. We practice compassion when we listen to another person's struggles. We practice generosity when we offer our presence, our attention, or a simple moment of kindness. We practice wisdom when we learn from perspectives that differ from our own. These small, repeated practices keep the heart soft and the mind flexible. They remind us that we are alive, that we are human, and that we are part of something larger than ourselves. When you let go of isolation and gently open the door to connection, you may rediscover something you had forgotten. Other people are interesting. Their lives carry unexpected stories. Their kindness can arrive at surprising moments. And your presence, your quiet, ordinary presence, matters to them more than you realize. The grandmother who sits silently in the community center's reading room becomes a comforting figure to the people who see her each week. The person who shows up consistently to a weekly class becomes part of others' routines, a small but meaningful piece of what makes their week feel complete. You do not need to be entertaining, impressive, or even particularly sociable to contribute to a sense of community. You only need to be present, to allow yourself to be seen, to participate in the simple, ancient human act of sharing space and time with others. In that humble participation, isolation slowly dissolves, and you remember, with relief and tenderness, what it feels like to belong. Let go of self-sacrifice that drains your spirit. Throughout your life, especially if you are a woman or grew up in certain cultural traditions, you were taught that goodness meant placing others first. You absorbed the belief that your needs should come last, that asking for help was selfish, that love meant giving until there was nothing left to give. You followed this teaching so faithfully that now, in later life, you find yourself depleted, uncertain how you arrived at such emptiness. Buddhism speaks with surprising clarity on this point. The Buddha taught that you should care for yourself with the same dedication and compassion you offer to others. There is a discourse in which he says, You can search the entire universe for someone more deserving of your love and care than you yourself, and you will not find such a person. And you will not find anyone more deserving of your love than yourself. This is not a call toward narcissism or selfishness. It is a simple recognition of truth. You cannot offer genuine care to others when your own heart is starving, when your spirit is drained, when you are running on fumes. Think of it this way. In Buddhism, compassion is not the same as martyrdom. Martyrdom grows out of obligation, out of guilt, out of the belief that your worth depends on how much you sacrifice. True compassion arises from a heart that is full and nourished, a heart that naturally overflows because it has been cared for. When you tend to your own well-being, you create the conditions for authentic generosity. Your help comes from surplus, not scarcity. It comes from genuine warmth rather than exhausted duty. Yet many people in later life continue patterns of self-sacrifice long past the point where they are healthy or necessary. You say yes to every request even when you are tired. You take on caregiving responsibilities that exceed your capacity. You give away your resources, your time, your emotional energy, because you believe this is what love requires. But Buddhism asks a piercing question: who is actually served by your depletion? What happens when you give so much that you damage your own peace and well-being? The truth is that everyone suffers. Your giving becomes tinged with resentment, quiet, hidden, but real. The people you care for sense your exhaustion and feel guilty. Relationships become imbalanced, built on a pattern where your needs are consistently ignored. And, without meaning to, you model for younger generations the dangerous idea that love requires self-destruction. You pass down a pattern of harm simply by living it. Letting go of draining self-sacrifice means learning to set boundaries without guilt. It means recognizing that no is a complete sentence. It means understanding that you can love someone deeply and protect your own well-being at the same time. It means remembering that rest is not selfishness, it is wisdom. This becomes especially important in older age, when your energy is genuinely more limited than it once was. Buddhism teaches wise compassion, responding to suffering in ways that actually help, not in ways that simply exhaust you. Wise compassion pauses to ask, will my intervention truly help this person? Or am I trying to fix something that is not mine to fix? Can I offer support in a way that preserves their dignity and my capacity? Is there a middle path between doing nothing and doing everything? Often, the most compassionate response is not to solve someone else's problem, but to trust them to solve it themselves. Your adult children may face challenges that trouble you deeply, but they are adults who need the opportunity to develop their own resilience, their own skills, their own wisdom. Rescuing them from every difficulty may soothe your anxiety in the moment, but it does not nourish their growth. When you finally release the pattern of self-sacrifice that drains you, something unexpectedly beautiful begins to unfold. You discover that there is space, real quiet space, to consider what you want, what would bring you joy, what would nourish the years you still have. You learn that you can be kind without being consumed, helpful without being hollowed out. You realize that boundaries do not shut people out. They create the structure in which genuine connection can thrive. And you offer those around you a rare gift, the example of someone who values themselves enough to live wisely, instead of performing endless martyrdom in the name of love. Let go of the belief that it is too late to begin. Of all the stories we tell ourselves in older age, perhaps the most damaging is this whisper: it is too late to learn something new, too late to heal old wounds, too late to revive a dream long buried, too late to become someone different from who you have always been. This belief becomes a wall, blocking you from experiences that could bring meaning, vitality, and renewal to your remaining years. Buddhism directly challenges this illusion. The Buddha taught the profound truth that each moment is a fresh beginning. There is a simple saying often repeated among practitioners: every breath, new chances. This is not naive optimism. It is a recognition of the very nature of existence. Each moment arises new, The past is only memory. The future is only imagination. The only time you actually possess is now, and now is always open, always spacious, always full of possibility. Consider the Buddha's own story. He left the comfort of his palace at 29, seeking truth, seeking freedom. He practiced intensely for 6 years, trying paths that failed, enduring frustration and disappointment. And he told himself at age 34 that it was too late, that he had wasted too many years searching without success. Buddhism would not exist, but he persisted. He remained open, and awakening came in its own time. Not according to a schedule he demanded. Many people discover their most meaningful work, their deepest peace, their truest self later in life. The poet Mary Oliver created some of her most beloved work in her 60s. The folk artist Grandma Moses began painting at 77 and produced more than 1,500 works before her death at 101. Laura Ingalls Wilder published her first novel at age 64, beginning a series that touched millions. These were not people with special advantages. They were people who simply refused to accept the idea that it was too late. You may think these stories are about careers or ambition, and you may feel you have no such aspirations, but beginning again is not only about external achievements, it is about the inner shifts that transform how you move through your days. It is never too late to begin meditation, to start seeing your thoughts clearly. It is never too late to extend forgiveness. It is never too late to offer forgiveness to someone you've held resentment toward for decades. It is never too late to take up a hobby that brings you simple, genuine joy. It is never too late to learn a new skill purely for the pleasure of learning. It is never too late to make a friend who sees you as you are now, not as the person you once were. Buddhism teaches that awareness has no age limit. Your capacity to awaken to the present moment, to see through old patterns, to choose a different response than the one you've chosen your whole life. This capacity does not diminish with time. Your body ages, yes. Your memory may soften around the edges, yes. But the fundamental ability to be present, to grow in wisdom, to choose clarity, this remains available until your very last breath. The belief that it is too late is rarely about time itself. It is almost always about fear. Fear of failing, fear of looking foolish, fear that trying something new will expose limitations you'd rather ignore. But consider the alternative, to remain seated in the comfort of familiar suffering, simply because it feels safer than risking unfamiliar possibility. When you release the belief that it is too late, when you drop that heavy story about being past your potential, you grant yourself an extraordinary gift. You return to a state of openness you may not have felt since childhood. You become curious again. You allow yourself to be a beginner. And being a beginner is always the first step toward learning anything meaningful. You discover that the years you feared were wasted can become years of profound richness, if you simply decide they can. The path to inner peace in older age is not about adding more to your life. It is about letting go of what weighs you down. Each of these 7 burdens, the pride that keeps you from asking for help, the expectations that bind both you and your children, the rigid views that disconnect you from the present, the exhausting attempt to control what was never yours to control, the isolation that feels safe but secretly breeds suffering, the self-sacrifice that depletes instead of nourishes, and the belief that you are out of time. Each of these 7 patterns is a weight you have carried for years, sometimes for decades, and each one can be set down. This is what the Buddha meant when he taught about letting go. He was not instructing people to abandon their families or neglect their responsibilities. He was inviting them to examine what they carry unnecessarily, what they cling to out of habit or fear, what they could release in order to discover a spacious, unexpected freedom in the very act of letting go. You have lived long enough to see the truth of this. The heaviest burdens are rarely the external circumstances you face. They are the internal positions you hold, the narratives you repeat, the tension you maintain inside your own heart. The exhaustion you feel may have less to do with your age, and more to do with how tightly you've been gripping these 7 long-held patterns. trying to uphold a version of yourself or of your life that no longer serves you. Inner peace is not achieved by making everything finally perfect. Inner peace is what remains when you stop demanding that life be different than it is. It is the natural state that emerges when you release resistance, when you make friends with your life exactly as it is, when you allow yourself to be who you have actually become without apology and without regret. Buddhism promises something profoundly comforting. This peace is available right now, regardless of your circumstances, not in some future moment when everything aligns, not in the past when times felt easier, but here, in this breath, in this moment, in the simple act of reading these words. Peace is not far away. It is what you uncover beneath the weight of everything you've been carrying. And so, perhaps the invitation now is simply this: to gently examine what you hold, to ask whether it truly serves you, to experiment with loosening your grip just a little. You do not have to let go of everything all at once. You do not have to transform yourself overnight. You need only be willing to consider that the way you have lived is not the only way, that the beliefs you've carried might benefit from fresh light, that the habits of a lifetime might soften under gentle awareness. In your remaining years, however many or few they may be, you have the opportunity to live with more freedom, more presence, more ease than ever before, not because your circumstances will become perfect, but because you will no longer be at war with what is. This is the gift of age when approached through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, the recognition that you can finally set down the burdens you have carried, that you can move through each day more lightly, that you can meet life with an open heart and open hands. The journey to inner peace does not require you to travel anywhere or become anyone other than who you already are. Beneath all the accumulated weight, it simply requires the courage to let go, the wisdom to recognize what is truly yours to carry and what never was, and the compassion to meet yourself with gentleness as you practice this release again and again. This is the work of later life, the deepest work. The work that finally reveals what has been true all along. You are already whole, you are already enough, and peace has always been waiting just beneath the surface, ready to rise the moment you stop holding it down. If these words have stirred something in you, if they resonate with the place you find yourself right now, then consider this your invitation to begin, not tomorrow, not when circumstances improve, not when you feel ready. Begin now. Choose just one of these 7 burdens to gently examine this week. Notice how it feels in your body when you carry it. Ask yourself honestly whether it serves you or whether it weighs you down. And if you discover it is a weight you can release, practice opening your hands just a little, just enough to feel what letting go might be like. This is how transformation truly happens, not through dramatic revelations or sudden enlightenment, but through small acts of release repeated softly, day after day. Each time you let go of even a fraction of what you have been carrying, you create a little more space for peace to enter. And gradually, almost without noticing, you find yourself living in that peace more often than not, moving through your days with a lightness you thought was lost forever, but was actually only buried beneath everything you believed you had to hold. If you found meaning in this reflection, we invite you to share it with someone else who might need these words. And if you would like to continue exploring Buddhist wisdom for living peacefully in later life, please subscribe to our channel. We are here to walk this path with you, offering gentle reminders of what you already know deep down, that it is never too late to find peace, that letting go is not loss, and that your later years can hold more freedom and joy than any that came before.